what is Dharma? Because Dharma is not simplistic. It's not a list of do's and don'ts. The Indian dharmic philosophy is how has the wheel been used? One can understand bull because a bull is strong, powerful, it has strength, and it is protective of its family, but it's also.
Every writer has a story behind why they write, right? What was that catalyst for you? How did you enter into writing?
First book, Immortals of Meluha, I started writing that, I guess, 2004, 2005. Took some nearly 4-5 years perhaps to write the first book. And before that, I didn't absolutely no fiction. Nothing, ever.
What would be that favorite book and what would be that character,
I know more about those characters than I would know about people I meet in real life. So they are very, very real for me. What is philosophy at its core? It's the art of learning how to live, how to make your choices, how to make decisions in life. Modern education system just teaches you skills. It doesn't teach you how to lead a fulfilling life with those skills that you've learned. And if you don't know how to live your life and you've learned skills, it's like a little child being given a knife.
How do you break that structure? How do you make people think through the heart or live through the heart?
So I think yet it's difficult to find a generation that is more angry than this present generation. And it doesn't make sense, right? Lord Ram, Goddess Sita, Ravan, all three suffered grief. What was Ravan's reaction to that grief? The world hurt me, I will hurt the world even more. Whereas what was Lord Ram's reaction? Ravan was so capable. No doubt the world was unfair to him, but he made his own situation a lot worse with his anger. How you treat others is not a reflection of how the other person behaves. It's a reflection of you as a character. And you'll find on authors, I would just say, look, if your aim is wealth and fame, there are much easier routes than writing. You should write only to give voice to your soul. And if the book works, fantastic. If it doesn't work, no problem. But write with your heart. If you want to be a good writer, you must be a good reader. That's the first thing. Because reading kind of,
Hello and welcome to Kavishala Conclave. This is Nilesh and I have somebody really special with me today. Somebody, in fact, who doesn't need any introduction because he has been showered with so much love by the reader population in India. Somebody who has also been described as the rock star of Indian literature. Somebody none other than Mr. Amish Tripathi. Amish, welcome to the show here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nilesh. Pleasure being here.
Thank you. And it's a great honor sharing the stage with you and Bhavna ma'am. Bhavna ma'am, incidentally, happens to be his co-writer and definitely she is his elder sister. So there's definitely a bond deeper than a co-writer. I am sure we would be able to scratch the surface of that as we proceed further. But welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nilesh. Pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Before I have a lot of questions for Dharma, to be very frank with you. I read this book. Yes, this book. And, absolutely. And you know what, honestly, I maybe will start with this because again, you have teased the audience with the side of that book as well. And the first thing for me, to be very honest as a writer and as a reader, more importantly as a reader and a seeker, was the cover of that book. The representation, that wheel over there. What does that represent to you? Why that? To both of you, rather.
But to begin with, the first compliment is to Gavin, who came up with this cover. Brilliant design, and kudos to Gavin, the creator of this cover. For the rest, I hand over to Amish.
No, I mean, absolutely agree with what Didi said. Gavin has done, his name is there and he's done a wonderful job on the cover, and it's symbolic in many ways because one of the key things that our ancestors always grappled with through all of history, because it is a question that can be explored for not just one lifetime but many lifetimes. The answer to that apparently very simple question: what is Dharma? Right? Because Dharma is not simplistic. It's not a list of do's and don'ts. The Indian dharmic philosophies, they treat you like an adult, not like a child. Do this, otherwise you'll go to heaven or you'll go to hell. That's like it's like a parent, finger pointing at her child. Whereas Dharma is much more mature. It treats you like an adult. Here are the options. Think about it. Do what you think is right, and then live with the consequences. And at the heart of all these philosophies is this lovely word, dharma. And dharma is a Sanskrit word, and it's one of those untranslatables. Often it is translated as religion erroneously. Dharma is actually beyond religion. The Sanskrit word for religion would be panth. Uh, Dharma is beyond it. It's religions can sometimes hope to attain, and push you towards dharma, and that's probably the way to approach it. And the root of the word dharma is a dhatu called dhru, that which holds together, that which binds, that which balances, right? And that's what dharma is. And dharma was represented through many ways in our ancient way. One of the ways it was represented was the wheel of dharma. It was also represented as a bull. Very often we forget that. There's a reason why the symbolism of a bull has been so important in all the dharmic religions. Hinduism is not the only dharmic religion. Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, and a wheel has also been used often. That's why it's one of the reasons why in Mahabharata you had the narrator being represented by a wheel, because that's the wheel of dharma. And one can explore why it is so. Why has the wheel been used? One can understand bull because a bull is strong, powerful, it has strength, and it is protective of its family. But it's also, a herbivore. It does not kill other animals, but it defends that which is its own. So bull is very symbolic in that sense as well. It's one of the most powerful beasts in the jungle, but does not hurt other animals. It'll only hurt you if you attack him or its family. Otherwise, it keeps to itself, right? A
Yes,
wheel is
absolutely.
also and that in a way what India is like also. India never sent armies abroad, but for most of our history we defended ourselves. It's not that we were non-violent. Someone attacked us, I mean, if someone slapped us, we won't turn the other cheek, we box the guy, right? But we won't go outside searching for food. But coming back to the cover, sorry, I tend to meander a bit. The wheel, it is one of the greatest inventions of mankind, right? The wheel has been used at so many places, and sure, our control of fire, the creation of the wheel, so early man and the ability to have tools are among the greatest inventions. But the key thing about the wheel is this, that it is stable when it's stationary. Sorry, it's stable when it moves, right? And stationary it can follow, and that's the key thing of dharma. That dharma is in action, and if you are in action, then actually it will remain stable and straight, right? Perhaps that's one of the symbology of the wheel as well, which attaches to dharma. It's also circular. One of the things our ancestors believed was that the most divine shape was uh, was a circle, because any geometric piece, when you kept adding sides to it, and then you had an infinite number of sides, it would become a circle. So it was symbolic of the divine. So very long-winded answer to show that actually there's some thought, symbology behind this, which sadly we are not taught about enough in our education system. Didi, if you want to add anything also to the wheel of dharma.
All I want to add is my two bit on the beautiful red dot in the middle. That actually, with apologies to Gavin, that isn't Gavin's contribution. That's a contribution of Aman and my brother Amish. The center, red, the dot at the center. Dharma is the central axis, the reed ki haddi. Karma, Amish talked about movement of the wheel, and movement, karma either takes you away from the center, or with effort, it makes you move towards the center. This beautiful red dot.
And very subtly said, when I looked at the cover, it along with the word, it had that esoteric meaning to me as well. I mean, though it looked apparent to me, but I wanted to see, because the red dot which you mentioned, right? It's that Moola Adhar which I basically envisioned, that wheel spinning on that Moola. And Amish, to your point, the one that you said, great analogy, when you talked about India never attacking and growing. And I could relate when you were talking about it, right? That India being, we call it as Dharma Kshetra, right? Evolved. We have always kept moving on, like the cycle of karma, like the cycle of the universe, like the cycle of expansion. We've always moved on. So yeah, great analogy on it. Absolutely awesome. But yeah, I think those were my thoughts as a fan and as a reader, definitely. But one thing also which intrigued me while I was reading through the book was the writing style, which was more of a conversation. And it is something that we don't see these days. What inspired you? What prompted you to write like that? Because it's a tough style, honestly speaking, when we start writing like that.
I've got to, comment on that. The genesis of this book actually lies in 2014-15. It was the result of, a Rockets family conversation. All of us together, we were talking about actually idol worship and Murti Pujan, the significance of idol worship, and it just has a very inculcated connotation these days. But what is the philosophical basis of idol worship? We were sitting and discussing, this, and then from there the conversation went to karma and dharma. And my brother Amish, the one I mentioned earlier, the one who suggested the red dot, he said, why don't you guys write something, together? And so Amish and I said, well, sounds like a good idea. And what we can do is maybe explore karma and dharma using the stories from the epics and Amish's universe. Meluha, it was Meluha and Secrets of the Nagas and Vaiputras at the time. And so I said, okay, Amish, let me take a shot at it. And I initially wrote around 20 pages, a basic compendium on, my ideas on envy, loyalty, sacrifice, gratitude, things like that. And I sent these 20 pages to Amish. And he called me back. I'm 8 years older to him. So he was very careful. He was very loving, but also very gingerly, but also very honest. And he said, Didi, what you've really written is a dissertation for a postgraduate course in philosophy, in some esoteric academia. No one's going to read this. It's extremely difficult to understand. And I said, oh my God, because I had worked so hard on it. And, in my conception, I had really dumbed it down. I had really, really made it simple. And here's my brother telling me this is for universities. So I said, okay, Amish, kya karu? So he said, let me work on it, send it to me. And then the Amish magic happened because, he worked on it and he created these characters. There's this family, there are two sets of couples, two older couples, Dharmaraj and Lopamutra Deshpande. And then their daughter, Gargi, and her husband, Nachiket and Gargi Sawant. He created these characters and he reaches that entire thing that I had written into conversations and he brought it all alive. It was magical. After that, of course, there was to and fro. He sent it back to me. I fleshed out a little more. I sent it back to him. He fleshed out a little more. And then actually it went into cold storage. During COVID time, Amish called me up and said, Didi, let's finish that project. That was almost done. And here it is. So that's how those characters were created. It's the magic of Amish.
I'd love to take all credit for it, but there is actually a structure that comes down from our ancestors. You'll notice most of the Upanishads are actually structured as conversations. And it wasn't just something in the Indian way. Even, the Platonic dialogues are actually as conversations, as compared to, a non-fiction book. I mean, there is value to both sides. But what a conversation does is because you can put point, counterpoint. So therefore, it just makes it a little easier to understand. Hence, even the names of the characters you'll find, Dharmaraj, okay, that comes from the Upanishads. Even the names Gargi, they're also, it's a cue to where it's come from. And conversations just make it easier. So I don't think credit can be given to me. It comes from our ancestors. And most of the deep thought on the philosophies, like as In our family, everyone reads a lot. I know many people used to think I read a lot. I do read a lot. But if there's one person in my family who reads more than I do, it's my sister. So she reads a huge, huge, huge amount. And she doesn't just read. In our family, we try, and of course, our roots are very Indian. We have read a lot of Indian stuff, but we try and bring in inputs from other ancient cultures as well, because it expands our mind, broadens our understanding. So, therefore, in this book, you'll find, these brought in wonderful references from ancient Greece, ancient Egypt, because there's something to be learned from all cultures.
I think should be audible now. Yes, I was saying absolutely concur with you. I absolutely agree that the way maybe our cultures flowed, everything contributed towards one another, and then we have this mingled mass of cultures across the globe, which are in a way coming together, maybe not in the form of spirituality, the way they used to be intertwined maybe ages and eons back, but now it is more in a more tamasic manner in the form of businesses and in the form of finances. But yeah, we are all combined some way or the other, either from sattva or from tamas, but we are at the end of the day one, right? But Amish, one question for you at this juncture, and maybe I'll kind of dwell away from the philosophical, discussion for a moment here, just for a little bit breather for all of us mortal folks. But the question is that every writer has a story behind why they write, right? What was that catalyst for you? How did you enter into writing?
For this book or initially?
Initially.
I
know I'm taking you a long way back in history, but yeah.
Because I'm old, as you can clearly make out.
No, you look young. You look young like a.
Yeah. With lies like that, you should be in politics.
No, I'm a part of the corporate world, so yeah.
Okay, so first book, Immortals of Meluha, I started writing that, I guess, maybe 15, 16 years ago, 2004, 2005. Took some nearly 4, 5 years perhaps to write the first book. And before that, I did absolutely no fiction, nothing ever. So I was completely a left-brained guy. Graduated in mathematics, did an MBA, worked in banking for 14 years. So as left-brained as they come, and had never shown any signs of being creative when I was young. And Didi will obviously back me up on that. My father and my elder brother did write poetry, but I Ashish, I, Didi, we never really wrote anything. So. And even Immortals of Meluha began actually as a pure philosophy thesis and an answer to the question, what is evil? And then it was Didi and Ashish who had spoken to me that, do you think this can come across in a story? And, let the philosophy be wrapped up in a story. And that's how it began. And how the story comes to me, I genuinely believe it's Lord Shiva's blessings, because I don't know how it comes. And even now, like I'm writing the fourth book of the Ram Chandra series right now, and there are scenes which just open up in my mind. How they open up, I don't know. And I've just learned to just trust the instinct. And I truly love that world and that parallel world that I get to enter when I write. I love the process of writing. It's like it's almost spiritual, which is why I guess I try. Maybe that's why I've come out with so many books, and many of them quite long in just 10 years. What 9? With Didi, this is the ninth book. My name on it, yeah.
So very interestingly, I have one question. In fact, I have two, but I'll first jump into my second question.
Okay.
So you mentioned one piece over there that your journey being a spiritual one when you're writing, and it quite often happens that when we write, you get involved with the characters and you get involved with the subject quite deeply. Did you have any experience that you would like to share while writing one of your books or any of your favorite books? I'll add on two questions to that. What would be that favorite book and what would be that character? I know a lot of questions, but something.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're writing fiction, you get so deeply involved with the characters. One doesn't just see them and hear their voice. As an author, one can also hear their thoughts, one can feel their emotions. And not everything that you see of the characters goes into the book, right? Because otherwise the book will become too long if you put everything in there. It'll become 1,500 to 2,000 pages. Yeah, which is a human rights violation, as I always joke. So You have to drop a lot of stuff. But so in some ways, I know more about those characters than I would know about people I meet in real life. So they are very, very real for me. Every experience that they have, like, I feel very deeply. And if in Oath of the Vayuputras, for example, when Devi Sati, when she died, I was so disturbed I couldn't do anything. And I wrote it, but I was so disturbed for I couldn't do anything for 2 days. And I remember when I'd finished that scene, I'd I was in my study at home. This was in Mumbai, and I'd come back to the bedroom. My wife at that time, she's my ex-wife now, but my wife, we're still, of course, good friends. But at that time, I'd come and I'd just put my head on her lap, and I just said, she's dead. That's it. And I'd started crying. And I was, in fact, right now I've just written, this morning of the death of a character who was actually just there for a bit in in Sita Warrior of Mithila, and I'm actually disturbed by that death. It was a very heroic death, but so one feels those characters, they really are a part of our being as authors. So which is why in some ways it's very special. In some ways it can be traumatic as well, because you feel the emotions a lot more strongly. But it is, whether you call it positive or negative, it truly is a very special experience. Seeing and living with those characters. I don't know if I was able to explain what I feel.
No, you were. In fact, honestly speaking, that carries on to the writing as well. And maybe that's the reason why all of India and a lot of the part of the world is so enthralled about your writings, because that emotion carries through. And when we talk about this emotion, this unseen force that we are talking about right now, right? I think this is something that you have touched on your book as well, which is karma, right? A lot of us understand karma as just work, just action, but it is more deeper than that, right? If I got the gist correct. Would you want to expound on that? How would you want to? I know it's very difficult explaining karma. It's a tough, long subject, but yeah, it would be great if you could talk about it a bit.
Karma, which is just work, is just work. How do you make it karma? I think, Bhavnadi, I think you may want to speak on this, how it works with Dharma.
Actually, I was so looking forward to listening to another, rejigging of the answer from you, Amish. Thing with Amish Nilesh is that, and I know what I'm saying. I'm his elder sister. You ask him to expound on something for the nth time, and for the nth time, he will give you a fresh perspective. Even as he was speaking, I'm digressing a bit, but when he was speaking about those characters, that he creates, and I so identify with what he's saying, because these characters in this book, they become so alive, and both Amish and I feel so intensely about these characters. When Amish used to talk about when he talked about the agony of Lord Ganesh, when he was creating his Lord Ganesh, when he talked about the death of Sati, the anguish of Kumbhakarn, that we have captured substantially in this book, Dharma. He used to feel so intensely, and be so moved that it was moving. You got moved by what he's experiencing. It was so beautiful. Having said that, I'll just come back and touch upon karma. Karma is if karma is activity, then the thing is, what is activity? Is just doing activity, is only this activity, or is this activity, or are my words also activity? Are my emotions activity? Are my thoughts activity? What about my breath when I'm breathing, when I'm sleeping? Am I active when I'm sleeping? Yes, karma is all kinds. When you're breathing badly, you're moving away from dharma. When you're breathing well, you're moving towards dharma. When you are being pulled in all kinds of directions by your thoughts, and when you are experiencing an inner noise in your head, you're moving away from dharma, because that's karma. And when you exercise control over your thoughts, when you become when you learn to become the master or the mistress of your thoughts, you're moving towards the center. Emotions, they're a big playground. Emotions are a huge playground to move from fear to security, to move from greed to contentment, to move from, egoic power pursuits to, love, to intuition. All this is karma, which is what makes it so difficult, because if everything is karma, then where do you start and where do you end? And how many lifetimes is it going to take for you to get to that damned center?
No,
But
absolutely.
if I could just add one thing, one of the things that was there in our ancient education systems, one of the things that Didi and I had discussed in our gurukuls, in our pathshalas, which were there till actually the 17th, 18th century. There's this beautiful book, a lovely book called Beautiful Tree by Dharampalji, a Gandhian, who had written of what our education system was like. Among the foundations that used to be taught was, of course, mathematics was a critical subject. Everyone had to learn it. Not like the nonsense of today where maths can be an elective subject. I don't understand that. Everyone has to learn maths. The second thing that everyone had to learn was philosophies. Philosophies was not something that was relegated to the humanities stream. It was something which everyone had to learn. Because what is philosophy at its core? It's the art of learning how to live, how to make your choices, how to make decisions in life. And this was something that was taught through everyone in our ancient schools through the medium of stories, through the Ramayana, Mahabharata, Puranas, where you'd be taught how, what are the options in life? How should you, what is Viveka? How do you make the ability to distinguish? And actually that we realize that is not there in the modern education system. Modern education system just teaches you skills. It doesn't teach you how to lead a fulfilling life with those skills that you've learned. And if you don't know how to live your life and you've learned skills, it's like a little child being given a knife. The child will probably hurt itself. How do you learn those philosophies on how you should make your decisions, how you should navigate the ups and downs of life? All of us will have problems in life. No one has an easy life. Those are the discussions we hope to trigger through, and this will not just be one book, it'll be a series of books to explain what used to be done, I guess, in our pathshalas and gurukuls earlier, discussing philosophies.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, you talked about this educational system, and it triggered a thought in me. You've mentioned in the book about having your heart talk to you. But unfortunately, in this day and age, if you look at it, for most of us, the heart unfortunately does not do most of the talking. Since childhood, it's trained to be subdued, right? Always it's your mind or somebody else's mind taking over you. How do you break that structure? How do you make people think through the heart or live through the heart again?
So I think one of the bizarre things that's happened in the modern Western way, and the Western way is so dominant across the rest of the world, pura havi ho gaya.
Hmm.
Is this putting reason and
Yeah.
rationalism on a pedestal, and they've almost backward projected this onto Greek culture and Greco-Roman culture. But Greco-Roman culture wasn't about, and reason was important. So was emotions, right? It didn't put reason at a pedestal and said, forget your heart. And this was true of all ancient cultures. That you have to have a marriage between your heart and your mind, between the Purush and Prakriti. Because if you don't have balance between the two, then you'll not know how to live your life well. Because if you listen only to your heart, you may jump from disaster to disaster. You'll be swinging from one extreme to the other. But if you don't listen to your heart at all, life doesn't appear worth living. How do you find a marriage between the mind and the heart? This was one of the things that was there in all ancient cultures. And these are things that are discussed in many of the philosophical discussions of ancient times, and we try and discuss it as well in our talks. Didi and I.
No, I did get a gist of that when I was reading through the book, and it definitely gave me a lot of insights as well. One more piece, which while you mentioned Purush and Prakriti, it brings me to another
Yeah,
question of mine.
I should just clarify that's the old Sanskrit term. So
Yes.
please don't translate Purush as male. That's
No, 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 no. I'm not. I'm not.
It's just a life force, and
Yes, yes.
Prakriti is matter. That's a way to translate it. Often we
Absolutely.
translate from Hindi and not on the original Sanskrit terms.
Yes, no. I'm going to Sankhya-vad over here. I'm talking about Purusha and Prakriti from the duality perspective. And duality is, I'm talking duality from our day-to-day lives as common people who are working specifically in this COVID time, right? A lot of people are struggling with their livelihood, and eventually the moral compass sways towards, or the dharmic converse sways towards saving that livelihood. How does a normal person in this tough time ensure that he is aligned to his dharma?
This is one of those testing phases in history. I wish one could say there are easy answers. Bhavnadi, I'd love it if you could also drop in. But my thoughts, there is a value to grief as well. It's one of the things our ancestors used to say. In fact, Gautam Buddha had said that the first of his Four Noble Truths was that grief is the fundamental reality of the universe. Now, we can either be weighed down by grief, or we can use grief as an opportunity to spiritually evolve. The choice is ours. And if Didi and I had written an article on this. If you think about it this way, just to give you a modern example, to kind of explain what we are saying, that you would think that the absence of grief and having all material comforts would lead to a well-rounded and happy person. But if you see, and I'm living in the West right now, if you see the modern Western youth, the modern Western elite youth, the most privileged generation in human history, no one has had the lack of actual real problems. That I'm not talking about third world countries, I'm talking about elite Western youth. They lead materially very comfortable life. They are privileged. Their per capita violence is the lowest it has ever been in human history. Per capita, I'm talking about in the West, per capita wealth is the highest it has ever been. And yet it's difficult to find a generation that is more angry than this present generation. And it doesn't make sense, right? If everything is comfortable for you, why are you angry, right? So is it that grief and problems actually have a purpose in our life, that they make us tougher, they make us stronger? It's one of the things our ancestors said. Having said that, the choice is ours. Do we use grief to evolve? If you've seen the Ram Chandra series, it's one of the things we discuss in here, that Lord Ram, Goddess Sita, Ravan, all three suffered grief. What was Ravan's reaction to that grief? The world hurt me, I will hurt the world even more. Whereas what was Lord Ram's reaction? The world hurt me, I will be even more noble. The choice is ours, how we react to it. So I will not lie and say that it is a comfortable situation and everything will be okay in a month. Who knows? There's a new strain right here, yeah, in London. Now, whether that has also come from a Chinese lab or a, I don't know. But okay, but no, jokes aside. But the point is that there is a new strain. When will this disease end? One doesn't know, and it is a very difficult situation for most people. People are there are real problems. Businesses are stuck in the. How do you handle this? Again, the choice is ours. We are not in control of what the world does to us, but we are in control of how we react to what the world does to us. And I would suggest we hold up Lord Ram and Goddess Sita as an example. How to react when the world is when fate has been unfair to you, when the world has been unfair to you. How should you react? And not like Ravan was so capable. No doubt the world was unfair to him, but he made his own situation a lot worse with his anger. That's perhaps a thought. Didi, you know?
No doubt these are challenging times. COVID has wreaked havoc economically, certainly the world over. Businesses have been rent asunder, lives have been destroyed. Businesses of decades have been brought to their heels. I mean, think about the food industry, restaurants, hotels, airlines,
How many jobs?
so many others really suffering. Added to which, this is COVID, but these times are also challenging. Post the creation of social media, these are huge challenges because Douglas Murray, the British author, has said that this communication revolution of social media, how we are conversing right now, this communication revolution will probably, in all probability, reduce the creation of the printing press to a footnote in human history. I mean, the creation of the printing press to a footnote in human history Because what this has done is that, you are a human being is simultaneously talking to himself and talking to the world at the same time. So social media has taken away the luxury of making a mistake, of throwing trial balloons of ideas, of just being human. So and human nature hasn't caught up with this huge development in technology. So it is extremely difficult to navigate this period without self understanding and understanding other human beings. Do I really see you? My eyes see you, but am I really able to see things the way you see? Can I see from your eyes? Because if I am able to really, really see you and see the way you see the world, then I will also be able to understand whether I should involve you in my life or manage you in my life. This will only happen if I understand you, and understanding you is not going to be possible till I first understand myself. It all begins here. So human nature, in terms of human understanding, in fact, self-realization, has to catch up with the external reality of the times that we live in. It's become extremely important.
Oh, absolutely well said. And, it kind of pops up another question in me in this regard that while we are talking about our current times, the situation, the age of instant gratification that we are talking about, there seems to be a moment where writing and reading the way we have seen it grow, as children, has taken a backstage stage. What do you feel is the future of the book industry, of writing in general in India and across the world? And what do you think is the importance of platforms like Kavishala, in this entire industry now as we proceed in 2021?
The book industry, Didi, the book industry, seriously, from paraphrasing from A Tale of Two Cities, simultaneously, it's the best of times and the worst of times. It is true across the world that many of the top authors and the classics, book sales have actually gone up because people are stuck at home. You can only watch so much of Netflix and Amazon Prime. You want to do something different. So reading has picked up. And you can buy on, and most people, even people who would stay away from from the online world, have actually dipped their toes into it because they've had no choice in the last 10-11 months. And our mother Bhavna Di and my mother, who would never, she wouldn't even touch Bhavna Di herself. She wouldn't get on social media, would refuse to buy anything on the phone, because the assumption was that moment you do that, your entire account will get cleaned out. But my mother has started buying things online, and now she's young. They're so convenient. Why didn't I do it before? Now, what this has done is moves what the social change, the consumer behavior change that would have happened over 10 years or 15 years has all got telescoped into 6 months. And the internet, we like to think of it as a democratizing tool. It's not turning out to be a democratizing tool. It's actually turning out to be a concentration tool. Remember, on your phone, you can't scroll more than 2-3 screens, right? How many books will you see? You'd only see the books that are displayed on the top screen, which is usually what, either the classics or the top 3-4 authors. That's it, right? It's not like a bookstore where you spend 2-3 hours, as all of us are voracious readers. So you discover things. So what this has done is book sales has got concentrated at the among the top authors, and many of the average hits are the average author, the guys who would sell say 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 copies. They are getting hit. Okay, this is not good for the industry long run. Okay, because a top author could get hit by a bus. Okay, and then what happens? Those books, there'll be no new books coming out, right? You never like a concentration risk. What is the solution? I don't know, because the internet almost naturally, like on Netflix, Amazon, which shows do you see? Just the ones that you've heard about. So top 10, 15, which get almost all the viewership, right? New models have to emerge, which is where what Kavishala is doing is very interesting, because you guys are actually speaking of the reading habit, the listening habit. And trying to build a different culture on the online space. Because if we are dependent only on the store app, you will never discover, you will never go beyond the third screen. Do you ever go beyond the third screen? No matter what product you're buying, you don't, even the third screen is too much. You normally just buy on the first screen, right? It's true for books, it's true for movies, it's true for everything, right? So new models have to emerge. Kavishala is in a sense an interesting model, which is looking at this. It will play out over the next few years. As of now, it appears there's a concentration risk. It is not good for the industry. It's not even in the interest of the top authors, because the industry also has to be healthy, right? So more strength to you guys and to others like you guys to introduce and more readers to more writers, because the physical stores are getting hit. That's a real downside of the present pandemic.
No, absolutely. I think you gave a very clear perspective of how things are going to pan out at this juncture. Which brings me to another thing, very intriguing line that I had read in your book, which Dharma in particular, and again, I'm going back to it because I am fairly enchanted by it, and I think it's a must read for anybody who is on that path or trying to seek that path of self-seeking and spirituality, for a lack of a better word. The question that I have here is that you have mentioned over there that what is in the interest of the bee, beehive is in the interest of the bee, right? The question which I have over here is, if the bee basically keeps on doing what the beehive, what has been given to it or what has been told to it by the beehive, then does it basically stop its spiritual progression by doing things that it does not relate to? Does it break its dharma?
What has been said is that in the book is what is in the interest of the beehive is always in the interest of the bee, and it is always so direction. Often it is so in the other direction also, but not always so in the other direction. Now, the thing over here, the crucial question over here, Nilesh, is which is my beehive? Which beehive do I belong to? Now, of course, ultimately, in the ultimate scheme of things, there's only one beehive. And what is that one beehive? Life. So we are all in the same beehive, from the banyan tree to the wheat, to the sun, to the moon, to the stars, Saturn, insects, trees, you and I, animals, everyone, we're one beehive. But that understanding it is safe to say very, very far away. It's certainly not happening in our current lifetime. So then how do I determine which beehive am I the bee of? Instinctively, I would say the beehive, the identification with which brings you in harmony, quietens you, and makes you positive. The one that reduces your inner noise. If you are identifying with a beehive and you find you're always angry, you're fearful, your emotions are all a tumble, you're unable to sleep, you're unable to function adequately, then you question yourself, am I identifying myself with the wrong beehive? I in my early youth identified myself with the beehive of feminism. What is my central identity? I'm a woman. I was a raving feminist as a teenager. But as Amish will, back me up with, I was a very angry young woman. There was no stillness in me. Obviously, I was identifying myself with the wrong beehive. That's the central question. Which beehive do you belong to? The beehive that, the central beehive I came to identify myself with, which brought me, centered me completely, was marriage, the bee in the beehive of, the marital bond, then family. That's the beehive that, makes me feel strong, makes me feel positive, brings me in harmony, keeps me calm. The beehive of India, it gives me a lot of joy. It keeps me centered, keeps me happy, keeps me positive. So that is the beehive I belong to. And if the beehives that I belong to, were, my marriage, then my family, my country. I don't have identification problems, and then I'm good to go. What's good for my beehive is good for me.
So when we have these number of people in the beehive, right, there will always be a conflict of opinions. And as long as there would be conflict of opinions, there would be people who would be seeing you as either good or evil. But as you said, right, end of the day, it's one beehive, it's one universal truth that we are talking about. Is there good or evil in your eyes?
But I would like to listen to what you have to say also. So you said that yes, whatever beehive we identify with, of course there are conflicting opinions, there are opposite points of view, which is fine, which is the way things should be. In a marriage, in a family, in a country. The thing is, we have to ask ourselves: can we debate? Can we engage in communication, conversations from respect? I may not agree with you, but can I bring respect onto the plate of my interaction with you? Now, the thing is that absence of respect doesn't necessarily translate to disrespect. There's a huge, you may withdraw respect and yet not dip your toe into disrespect, because whatever may be, the situation, civility should not be discarded. So, if you do not discard civility, and if you're able to, hold on to respect, even to an opposing point of view, I don't think conflicting ideas are a problem. The more the merry.
Yeah.
The more the growth, the more the merry, and the more the merry, the more the growth.
No, completely. And if I can add to that, this is something our father had told us, that if two people have the exact same viewpoints on everything, then one of them is not required actually. It is almost impossible for any two people to have the exact same viewpoints on all issues. The very fact that we are different individuals, that we have different life experiences, means that the way we view the world will be different, and which is the way it should be, right? So that's the first point. The second point then is how we should debate. And there is this wonderful book I have spoken of very often, called a book called Vada by Radha Vallabh Tripathi ji. He's no relation of ours, so there's no nepotism here. Uh, so he's written this book on Indian debating traditions and Indian debating styles and the way we came to our point of view. And there's a lovely line which is there in the Natya Shastra: Satyam Bruat Priyam Bruat Na Bruat Satyam Priyam. That speak the truth, but speak it with love. And if you cannot speak it with love, then don't speak it. It doesn't say speak the untruth. I've said that very often. It doesn't say speak the untruth. You must speak the truth, but speak it with love. Then you will learn something from the other person as well. The other person will learn something from you too. And society will benefit from that. That's the second point. The third point, so one of the things that we mention in the book, that how you treat others is not a reflection, often is not a reflection of how the other person behaves. It's a reflection of you as a character. And you'll find that those who have a sense of centeredness, who are content with themselves, will treat others with respect, even if the other person does not deserve respect. An example of that is Lord Ganesh in the Shiva Trilogy, who we speak of out here. Right? In the Shiva Trilogy, if you see Lord Ganesha's character, the amount he suffered, does he have the very fair right to be angry with the world? Yes, he does. Perhaps as much of a right to be angry with the world as Ravan had, because he suffered a lot. But Ravan was so angry, treating even those who treated him with respect, he would treat them with disrespect, like with Kumbhakarna, right? Whereas Lord Ganesh, even that woman who he saved in Immortals of Meluha, right, and who called him a monster because he looked different, he treated her with respect as well. And that doesn't say anything about that woman. Of course, she didn't deserve respect. It says something about how centered and solid Lord Ganesh was as a character. So when you treat others with respect, it actually says something about you. That doesn't mean become a doormat. Lord Ganesh was never a doormat. When he needed to fight back, he would fight back, right? But you'll still have manners and civility in how you behave, and that's our Indian traditions. We've forgotten some of those traditions in our modern debates, especially in our modern TV channels, our op-eds, the way they talk. We've imbibed many of these unfortunate. We've lost the beauty of humor. You can say the same thing with humor rather than insulting.
No, absolutely, aptly said, Amish. And in fact, one thing which I would want to mention over here, in particular about the Immortals of Meluha, to be very frank with you, and again, this is not flattery, this is the way I see it over here. I regard that as a gateway book. Like there are a lot of books that we see, like there are a lot of people specifically right now do not have access, or we have lost our traditions across the world, not only in India. Those things have been maybe marked as pagan or tribal customs, or they have been looked down upon. But there is always an ounce of truth, and we have lost those customs, tradition, way of doing things, the science behind the entire the rituals. We have lost that. But what Meluha has done for a lot of people is that it has created that gateway to spirituality. It has become that gateway drug. It has triggered that curiosity, which I feel is absolutely important in this day and age, and it becomes a stepping stone for people to seek that wonder which lies beyond. So yeah, definitely, I think the entire world is indebted to you for that. But on that note, and I know we are a bit over the hour, but one question which I would want to ask you over here: what is the advice that you have for one upcoming authors, and maybe if we do have the time, what advice do you have for people who are in search of Swadhyay or in search of themselves? What advice do you have for them?
I'll handle the question on the authors. I think Didi should answer on those who are in search for themselves. On authors, I would just say, look, if your aim is wealth and fame, there are much easier routes than writing. You should write only to give voice to your soul. And if the book works, fantastic. If it doesn't work, no problem. But write with your heart. Write with the purity of your heart. That's the only the core suggestion I would make on writing. Once you've written the book, of course, then become pragmatic, figure out how you market it. All those things are, of course, important, but only later. When you're writing, write with the purity of your heart. It should be the voice of your soul. That's the only suggestion I would give to writers. Didi, spiritual suggestions for those who are searching for themselves. One way could be start with this book, Dharma.
Really, this is such a big question, and who am I to offer my two bit on this humongous question? All I will say is gather the courage, the himmat, to really uncover yourself, and have this within your own inner being, get to know yourself. All of us think we know ourselves. We do not know ourselves at all. If you have ever said to yourself or to somebody else, a friend, a family member, a colleague, a subordinate, your boss, anybody, a person you're buying something from, if you've ever find yourself saying, oh my God, I don't know where that came from. I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I said that. I'm so sorry. That wasn't me. Examine that me, because that me is more me than the me you like to believe is me. Get to know that me. Be brutal with yourself, and पर्दा फाश करो अपने unconscious का. It's not an easy exercise because we cover ourselves with so many rationalisms and so many explanations, because we all like to feel good about ourselves. And in uncovering yourself brutally and getting to know that bit in you which is malignant, that bit in you which is unkind, that bit in you which is angry, that bit in you which is fearful, and engage with it, understand it, and then try and overcome it. That's Swadhyay. That's the journey of life in a way which was really, in a sense, beautifully meaningful. You will start once you overcome that initial bump, of inner brutality. You will find that you'll enjoy the ride.
I guess that's a wonderful place to end that.
Yes, absolutely. No, thank you for your time today. I think it was a pleasure talking to you, and wish you the very best for the new book. And it was a pleasure reading it. Thank you so much.
And when I did hear of the story, I had two immediate reactions. One was a feeling of being inspired. That what a man! Such an inspiring story. 1,000 years ago, king from a subaltern caste, a Hindu from a subaltern caste, forges an army together of Hindus of all castes, of Indian Muslims, of Buddhists, and beats back one of the most brutal foreign invading powers that the world has ever seen. Inspiring. A tale of unity, a tale of bravery. And the other feeling that I had was a feeling of sadness. That how the hell do we not know about this story? In any other country, if you had a hero like this who had got 160 years of peace, for his land, I mean, his statue should have been everywhere. He should have been a part of our history books. But we cover the invader, Mahmud Ghazni, a lot more than King Suheldev. And I have some roots in UP. My father's family is from UP, from Kashi. And King Suheldev was from Shravasti, from close to Ayodhya. So the same state. And I didn't know. Outside of UP, almost no one knew. And this, in some ways, is an indictment of how totally cut off our education system is from our roots.
True.
So I really said, no, I need to get this story out. So that's where the journey began.
I'm from Lucknow, which again is next door to Ayodhya, and I did not know this story either. But that brings me to another point, which is exactly what you touched upon. That is there something fundamentally skewed about our education system? Do you think the new education policy is going to address some of that? And do you think much more needs to be done, perhaps in terms of curriculum reform, or at least a new perspective on it?
You've touched on an area of immense passion for me. Education has always been very, very deep. It's where we build our future.
Yes.
I think the new education policy, I've read the summary of it. I haven't read the entire policy, I must be honest. So it is based on news reports that I've read and some of the summaries that I've read of it. And at least at this point in time, the new education policies to me appears positive. Right? It is a step in the right direction. We are in many ways reconnecting our education system to our roots, to the reality of India. Because if one had to summarize the aim of the education system we've had for the last 70 years, the aim was clearly to deracinate us, right? To somehow make English men and English women out of us, Europeans out of us, rather. In almost every subject. I'm not just talking about religious traditions or spiritual traditions. In every subject. In mathematics, we learn nothing of Bodhayana or Bhaskaracharya ji. We will learn, Euclid or Pythagoras. Whereas much of the roots of modern mathematics actually comes from India.
Yes, very much so.
Algebra is credited to Al-Khwarizm. But Al-Khwarizm was very clear where he got all his information from. Because the book where he writes about algebra, he called it Kitab al-Hindi. Kitab al-Hisab al-Hindi. The book of the mathematics of India. Right? He was not a plagiarist. He very clearly quoted where he got all the data and the concepts from India. But we ourselves don't know. The modern Arabs don't know. Some modern Europeans know. Right? I discovered that people out here know. There was a wonderful exhibition on Indian sciences that was organized in the UK, right? Some 4 years back. India wouldn't organize something like this. Math, science, astronomy, everywhere. We are architecture. We are completely cut off from our roots. It's true in history as well. In history, we are taught the facts and the history of our invaders, not our ancestors who fought those invaders. It's bizarre. Rarely has there been a culture like ours, in the modern day, where we are the inheritors of so much greatness, and we are almost desperate to somehow deny and forget it all.
In fact,
It's
there's an element of
completely bizarre.
self-loathing in it, being educated in India means that you develop a certain sense of shame or self-loathing about anything that is deeply connected to the
Yeah,
Indian ethos.
it's completely bizarre. And I will say once again that we should not, uh, I mean, other subjects, it's non-controversial. Mathematics, physics, astronomy. Why will anyone deny, that we should learn our own medicine? Why will anyone deny that we should, except for a real small bunch of extremists, you know, in a few universities in India who desperately want to prove Indians were monkeys before the British came. Except for that small bunch of extremists, very few people will object to this part of the national education policy, that boss, teach our traditions and our knowledge systems also. Where things become a little controversial is, I admit, in history. And there I think our establishment historians have made a mistake, because Turkic colonial rule is equated to Islamic rule. And that is a critical mistake they have made. If British colonial rule is not called Christian rule, why is Turkic colonial rule called Islamic rule? Are they trying to say that those horrific crimes that were committed by the Turks, as Will Durant, the American historian, had said, the Turkic invasion of India was probably the bloodiest story in human history. But it had nothing to do with Indian Muslims. They were foreign invaders, right? Uh, we need words have power. We shouldn't use the term Islamic invasion. We should use the Turkic colonial rule or the Turkic invasion. They were foreigners. They wouldn't have looked like Ranveer Singh or Hema Malini or Prithviraj Kapoor, Alauddin Khilji and Razia Sultan and Akbar. They would have looked, to us, they would have looked Chinese. They were Turks from Central Asia. They had Mongoloid features. They did not speak Urdu, regardless of what Indian films, try and portray as that, that Razia Sultan is speaking classical Urdu. No. Or Alauddin Khilji. No. They would have spoken Turkic or Persian. We wouldn't have understood anything of what they were saying, right? Urdu is an Indian language. It's our language. It's not a foreign language. Right? Uh, I think our establishment historians have made a critical mistake in trying to showcase Turkic colonial rulers as Indian Muslims. In my mind, it shows the bias and bigotry of our establishment historians. If they do not equate British colonial rule to Christian rule, why are they equating Turkic colonial rule to Islamic rule? It has nothing to do
And
with
this sets up a false and very dangerous continuity. And
yeah.
that is a continuity that is afflicting our discourse even today.
Absolutely. You read the list of nobles. Now, I admit, among foreign rulers, just like among the British foreign rulers, there were some who were relatively decent and some who were brutal and barbaric. Like Robert Clive, Dalhousie were brutal and barbaric. Everyone knows that. Bentinck was relatively decent. Everyone knows that. But Bentinck was also a foreigner. We are clear on that. He was an Indian. Right? Same among the Turkic colonial rulers. Akbar was relatively decent, right? But Alauddin Khilji, Babur, Mahmud Ghazni were brutal any age's imagination. They were like the Nazis times 10,000. They were horrifically brutal, and they were very proud of it. You have to read their texts, like Tarikh-i-Farishte or Babar Nama. They proudly speak of, that they raped so many women, that they killed so many kafirs and built, mountains, pyramids with their heads. They called Indian Muslims kafirs as well, because Indian Muslims were not pure enough for them, because Indian Muslims would follow Indian customs as well. So we have to get a real understanding of our history that will pull the poison out of today's body politics.
Coming to a slightly different topic, what do you think? What are your thoughts about the current trends in Indian writing in English, or for that matter, in the Indian languages? And do you think, like a platform like Kavishala, which has about 90,000 followers on Twitter and is doing a variety of things, both in English, Urdu, Hindi, uh, what is the role do you think that they have to play? I mean, is there a space, and where do you think this would go?
No, I think Indian writing is doing very well. There is this particular author who used to live in India and completely attached to India, but is now sadly living in London. Who's actually quite good.
I like that.
No, but there are many authors,
Yeah.
who are doing quite well. 10, 15 years ago, to be a bestseller, you'd have to sell just 5,000 or 10,000 copies.
True.
Today, a bestseller would mean you've sold at least 20, 30,000 copies. There are a few authors who sell in the hundreds of thousands now. There are two of us.
Including an author living in London.
No, that is in the millions. So there are two of us who sell in the millions now. The market has expanded dramatically, right? So in some ways, it's the best of times, but in some ways, it is the worst of times as well. I'll tell you what worries me most deeply is the challenges that our physical bookstores are facing. Um, Look, till say 10 years ago, online stores would contribute maybe 20-25% of sales. For my first book, the balance was physical bookstores. For Ravan, it was 50-50. For Suheldev, 90% is online, right? Physical
I think
stores.
COVID also has had a role
Yeah,
to play in
COVID has
that.
had an impact. I don't deny that. But there is a long-term structural thing. Now, when I'm saying online stores, Amazon, Flipkart, I'm not just talking about ebooks. I'm talking about physical book sales through online
Yes.
stores.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you why I'm so worried about physical bookstores facing challenges, because uh, online stores are very good for top authors and for the long tail, right? That top, because what happens in online stores, because you're checking things on your phone, right? It's not easy to browse, right? So what you normally do is you go to the app and you search for the book or the author you're trying to find. You buy that
It's
book.
very targeted. Yeah, it's
Exactly.
very
Buy that
targeted.
book and you leave. So the only ones who benefit from this are either the top authors or someone who you know personally. So the long tail,
Yeah.
right? The average author, the average best-selling author, is getting squeezed in this online. Now, the average author, especially the new ones, would get discovered through browsing in physical
Yes.
bookstores.
That's so
Passionate
true.
readers like you and I, we would spend an hour at a bookstore, randomly just
Happily.
walking around, and
Yeah.
by accident, we would discover an author who no one has told us of. That's how I
Yes.
was discovered, yeah, my first book, right? Uh, that a very, very important part of the book trade is under threat because the physical bookstores are under threat. The industry has to find a way to make the bookstores survive. It's good for us, for our industry. Look, if the
Yes.
industry is dependent just on a few top authors, boss, one of us could get hit by a bus. Anything can happen. No, I'm saying there are real risks, right? There's a concentration risk. Then what happens, right? You want to spread the risk for which the average hit is very important, right? And that the only way to build that is through physical bookstores. Now, this is a real challenge. I don't have an answer. I don't know what the solution is. Because physical bookstores are facing challenges in many parts of the world. In the UK,
True.
a store like Waterstone has discovered a model, right? Which is, and they have really revived their physical store business. We have to find some way to make this happen. Maybe Kavishala is a solution to that. That you know, online platforms like this who introduce new authors, male or
And
female,
poets. And poets.
poets, apologies, and poets to the passionate readers, right? Remember, it's the passionate readers who discover new people, right?
True.
Admittedly, you'll bring in established authors to build traffic, and I
Yeah,
suggest this
that's
to
true.
every established author. It is your duty to support. It is good for the industry, and what's good for the industry is good for you also, right? You don't want the industry dying out. Ultimately, look, if the boat itself is sinking, okay, you might be
Yeah.
in the best cabin in that boat. But if the boat is
Yeah.
sinking, you will sink with it. You
Yeah.
want the boat to do well, right? So established authors must support platforms like Kavishala and various other platforms that are coming up who build the average author for the passionate readers. And my compliments to
Thank you
Kavishala
so
for the
much.
work that they're doing.
Thank you so much for that vote of confidence. And my next question is, something that's, I think, is a global phenomenon now with COVID just lingering on and on, showing no signs of abatement. You're alone in London, your family is in India, and you're there with your team. So, what do you do for your own mental health, and what advice do you have, especially to our younger viewers, for their mental health and well being?
I'm not so sure if I'm the best advisor for
Okay,
men.
what are your mantras? What do you do to, sort of keep going
I'm a
and keep
workaholic.
cheerful?
I'm a workaholic. Life has had its ups and downs. And the career. One of the things in our ancient Indian ways believe that the universe balances itself. If you receive no more blessings than you deserve in one part of your life, then the universe will balance it in another part of your life. My career has I've received more blessings than I deserve. Every year has been better than the previous year. Uh, so I guess to balance it out, my personal life has been difficult in the last uh, 3-4 years, longer.
Yeah,
Various
yeah,
tragedies, one after the other. It's the way the universe balances itself. You have to kind of make peace with it
accept
and
it. Yes,
accept
you
it
just
and
accept.
work.
Yeah,
And if you have, I think the key thing is if you have a few, if you're close to family members, if you're close to, if you have a few close friends, that's what actually helps you through life. My son, he is the anchor of my life. He's with my ex-wife in Mumbai. So I speak to him on video call very regularly. It's like a balm to my soul. I haven't been able to go see him. I used to go back every few weeks from here. Even a long weekend, I would rush back, see him, and come back. But last 4-5 months, thanks to COVID, one has been stuck. I'm very close to my siblings, my in-laws. Continue to have good relations with my ex-wife, and I have three close friends. And actually, you don't need more than 9-10 people, right, who
that's true.
help you through life. I think one of the things I always tell the youth is, you must realize that those who you know on social media, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, they are not your friends. Okay,
Yeah.
they are acquaintances who you share pictures with, right? And thoughts with. They are not your friends. They are not like your close group. Okay, your close group are those who will die for you, who you will die for without a second thought, and that's never more than 8, 9, 10 people at max, right? And you have to maintain those relationships because when times are in good times, also they give you joy, but when times are tough, you count on them more than
True,
anyone else.
absolutely true. And I think that that's a big point that, social media likes and followers are not really real. I mean, they
No, they're
are
not.
real people, but they're not real in your life.
True.
It's the people you can actually just pick up the phone and talk to.
And you can call
That
someone at 2 o'clock in the night.
exactly
I'm
that
in
2 a.m.
trouble. That
friend or
person will
something
drop
like
everything and come for you. Will a social
yeah.
media friend do that? Of course not. No?
So
And
I,
it's never more than 9, 10 people. It's never for any of it's
absolutely.
never more than 9, 10 people.
But at the same time, what you're saying is that it's important to keep communicating at all times, to never feel,
That's
even if there is physical distance, that you are really alone. That little
yeah,
network is what keeps your boat floating through
that's
choppy
true.
waters,
That's
really.
true. That's true.
You know,
I mean, in my video calls with Neil, I mean, he'll be teaching me his language. So like, I discovered that sick is apparently a compliment now, according to So when they say, "Oh, that's sick," I was like, "No, that was actually quite good. That's what I meant. Sick means that's cool." I said, okay, so I discovered something new.
it's a whole
Oh,
new lingo.
yeah, like you don't say bro now, you say bro. Okay, bro.
Oh,
So,
I
so
didn't know that
I said
myself.
I said bro, and like he put like 2 tick marks. Like, okay, you're cool now.
You got it right.
I
Okay,
got I
coming
got
back to
introduced to One
poetry.
Direction. I got
Hmm.
introduced to One Direction by my son
Oh,
Neil. And these like random conversations, like with my siblings. Also,
yeah.
every Sunday morning we have an hour and a half, on essentially video chat. And at the end of that hour and a half, you don't even remember what you spoke. What you remember is the
Yes.
feeling. Just
Yes.
Random laughing, pulling each other's leg. That's what gives you peace.
That is what keeps you going. That's what recharges you. Okay, coming back to Suheldev, since this book was such an eye opener for so many of us, including you, as you said, are you planning more of these? Are you planning a series on the unsung heroes and heroines of Indian history?
Yes, I am. Many story ideas like this.
Oh, wonderful!
It's
I'm
going to be a
so
part
happy
of
to hear that, because that's what I thought. That this deserves a series.
Yeah. So it's a part of the Indic Chronicles. And I'm going to have, there are many story ideas that are there in my mind. There are great heroes and heroines who have fought to keep our culture alive. And we must recognize and respect and celebrate them and be inspired by them. Uh, you know, I don't think our heroes and heroines expect us to be as brave as they are. They know we are not. Right? Our soldiers at the border, for example, they don't expect us to stand at their side and fight. They know we are not that brave, but they expect us to remember and to celebrate them. That's the least we can do. The worst thing you can do to a hero or a heroine is forget them. You should forget.
Yeah. Wonderful to hear that. I have to ask you again, from your army of fans, when is the next Ram Chandra book coming out?
I'm working on it.
Okay.
So
2021.
2021, second half 2021. It'll be out.
Great.
I'm working on it.
And great. Good to hear that. And the last question before we wrap up is you're relatively young yourself. You've had this brilliant journey from what you call being a boring banker to being a happy author, and which is an exceptional story, really. So, what's your advice to young writers and poets? Do's, don'ts, any tips along the way?
Okay, I'm 45, so thank you for calling me relatively young.
Well, from my perspective, you're younger than me, so that's young.
Okay, so
And people don't know. Can I share a personal fact?
Please,
Amish's
yeah,
eldest sister, Bhavna, was selected in the Indian Administrative Service, and she is my batchmate. And it was a pleasure to be with Bhavna. She later on resigned from the service, but that apart. So I can definitely call you younger.
Yeah, of course, which is why you're Sumita ji or Sumita Didi for me.
I know. I keep noticing that and feeling. I mean, okay, feeling nice actually.
No, because you're a batchmate of Bhavna Di. I can never call Bhavna Di Bhavna, which is Didi. So I can't call you Sumita either. You're Sumita Didi or Sumita ji for me.
Thank you.
So,
okay, so now your Gyan. Let's have your Gyan for the younger
audience. Gyan for the younger audience. Gyan makes it sound so boring, yeah. Okay, no. Okay. Suggestions.
Okay, your hacks. Okay, let's use current terminology. Your hacks.
Hacks. Jugaad. Hacks. Why is Jugaad seen as something negative? Jugaad is also actually quite cool, yeah.
Jugaad is the most innovative Indian approach to things.
Jugaad. Yeah. Jugaad plus hacks. Okay. If you want to be a good writer, you must be a good reader. That's the first thing. Because reading kind of, builds all the ingredients in your mind, which can then convert into a fiction or a non-fiction. So, like my rough ratio is that for every page I write, I read at least 100 pages. Okay, so and I read a lot. I'm reading all the time. I read at least 5-6 books a month. And not just books, I read scientific papers. I'm reading all the time. Right? Whatever free time I have, I'm reading. So that's the first thing. Read a lot. To be a good writer, you must be a good reader. The second
thing, subclause to that is get off social media.
Yeah.
Otherwise, how do you find the time?
Correct. I mean, look, ati sarvatra varjayit. Excess of anything is not good. So, thoda bit karo, but not too much. Right? Don't get obsessed by it.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. The second thing, writing is a high risk, high return game. It's a bit like being in sports or being in any creative industry, acting or filmmaking, anything like that, right? Some people make more money than they ever thought possible. Most 99% don't even make enough money to pay the bills at the end of the month, right? It's the way it is. Unlike in banking or any other job where you'll make a reasonable salary, you'll get a promotion every few years. Almost
steady flow.
There's a steady flow. So therefore, have a job on the side. There's no dishonor in that, right? And write in your free time, on the weekends, on the commute to office and back. I wrote my first 2 books along with my job. Resign only when your royalty check becomes more than your salary.
Yeah, I
Otherwise,
heard you say that.
yeah. Otherwise, what happens is then you will be forced to compromise on your writing for the sake of money. Money can force you to do things that you don't want to do, right? Because you can't have your kids starving because I have to keep my writing pure, right?
Yeah.
The only way you can keep your writing pure is if money is not an object, right? So either the book sell enough that it's not an object, or have a job. That's a second thing. And the third thing, corollary to that, keep your writing pure. When you're writing, look, if your purpose is to be rich and famous, there are many easier routes. Okay, writing cannot. Writing is one of the most difficult routes to become rich and famous. Right? If you make it, great, but that can't be your purpose. Right? Writing has to be the voice of your soul. Keep your writing pure. That's the only way it serves a purpose in your life. And the fourth thing is, once the book is complete, then become practical, pragmatic, market it properly, because things don't sell by themselves. You need good marketing to sell.
Which you've
Nothing.
done well.
Yeah, and I think it's important. Someone just asked me, does Amish write poetry? Yes, I do actually.
I also saw that. Do you?
Yeah, I do. So
Oh,
in fact, in my family, many write poetry. So my father writes poetry in Urdu actually. My elder brother Anish Da, he also writes poetry in Urdu and in English. I write poetry more in English, but some in Hindi as well. You know, I understand Urdu, but not as well as my father or elder brother do. And in fact, one of my poems is there in Ravan. Uh, the Ballad of the Sun and the Moon is my poem. I'd written that when I was 21 or 22.
wonderful. Thank you for that little nugget of information about the closet poet that Amish is. And I'm going to sign off now, but before that, as everyone knows, Amish is also the director of the prestigious Nehru Center. So, in a sense, he is India's cultural ambassador to the Western world, I would say, as a whole. So, can you, before you go, just share a little of what you're doing and what your vision is, how to expand India's soft power, especially in the modern world, in the Western world today?
Look, I think there's a very exciting time, right?
Yeah.
Till to be an Indian, till now, let's be honest, India's soft power and cultural footprint was relatively low compared to the scale of our country. Right, we're the fifth largest economy in the world, the second largest by population. We're a serious country, right? We're not a superpower. US is a superpower, but we are clearly a middle power among the 4, 5, 6 middle powers, right? Which as Honorable External Affairs Minister Jaishankar ji has said. Uh, and even if you see, like there are very few quantitative measures of soft power. One of the best that's there is the Global Soft Power Summit report, which had just been released. It's done by a UK based organization. It was just released a few months back, just pre-COVID, by Ban Ki-moon, the former Secretary General of the UN. I've been invited to speak there as well. And again, one thing that I realized out there, that I was the only Indian, right, out there, not just on stage, but also in the audience. Right? Our soft power ranking was a soft power ranking of various countries. Our soft power ranking was 27. Right? Again, which if you think about it, it's quite low for a country of our scale and our history. We are the only pre-Bronze Age pagan culture that is alive till today. Every other pre-Bronze Age culture is a museum piece. If you want to experience Pharaonic Egypt, you have to go to a museum. You want to experience Gilgamesh's Mesopotamia, you can't even go to a museum because you can't go in that country. So you have to, I don't know, search on the net. Greco-Roman culture is a museum piece now, sadly. But India, you can experience a living pre-Bronze Age culture. China is not a pre-Bronze Age culture, right?
Yeah.
It's around 2,500, 3,000 years old. Pre-Bronze Age meaning at least 5,000 years old. And yet our soft power ranking was 27. Now that should obviously, tell us that, listen, we need to do a lot better. But one of the things that I discovered from the organizers of that soft power report, that actually India's soft power ranking has risen a lot. So yes, we're slow, but our trajectory is in the right direction, right? We are growing quite a lot. So that's one aspect. We have to kind of pick up pace. And I think broadly, our image among the average Joe in the West is actually quite positive. In some of the mainstream media and academia, we're ignored or perhaps seen a little negatively. But among the average Joe, we are actually seen quite positively. Again, not top of mind, but whatever little they do look at us, they see us positively. Few reasons for that, because of yoga, and I think we did a fantastic thing over the last few years because of the Yoga Day,
International Yoga Day,
by the Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji. We have actually, in a way, taken the cultural ownership of yoga. We were in danger of losing it. Right?
Yes.
So Yoga Day has been a fantastic move. Gautam Buddha, who's very clearly seen as, from the Indian subcontinent. Both India and Nepal share, but the Indian subcontinent essentially. Lord Buddha was from our region, so that obviously adds to India's soft power. Mahatma Gandhi is seen positively, adds to India's soft power. The Indian diaspora, a term I've heard here often to refer to the Indian diaspora, not just in the UK but in the US, Canada, and the larger Western world, is the model minority. Because we have the Indian diaspora in the West has low crime rates, is very focused on education, has across all these countries has an average income higher than the native, even the native population, right? So we tend to be overperformers, right? A bit of negative is we are seen as an insular community, as in that we like to interact only with each other as far as our social engagements are concerned. We may not engage as much with the larger native populations. It's changing a bit, I think, with the second, third generation Indians, but we are largely seen positively. That basically good guys don't do crime, focused on education, do well economically, pay their taxes. So that also helps our soft power. So now all these factors are great building blocks. We need to build on it. And create a much higher profile. And yes, I hope that the Nehru Center will play its small role in this.
In fact, I'm certain it's going to play a very pivotal role in this. And to that endeavor and end, I think all of us are wishing you all the very best of luck and a lot of innovation and a lot of initiatives, which of course we hope you're going to combine with carrying on your creative journey. Thank you so much for taking the time today with Kavishala Talks. And on behalf of Kavishala and my own self, thank you again, Amish. It's always a pleasure chatting with you and hearing your views. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Thank you so much. My gratefulness to Kavishala, and thank you so much, Sumita Di. It's always a pleasure chatting with you.
And I hope you stay safe and healthy, and so do all our viewers. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you.